I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Donon, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Double Clutch NBA Podcast. I'm Matthew Wellington and I'm joined tonight once again by Mike Miller.
Hello.
With both shoes on this time.
No shoes on this time.
Oh, no shoes on.
Yeah, you get this wrong every time. It's the summer. No shoes.
The August British weather is getting to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, it's fine. I've been in shorts and no shoes since about March, which seems to be standard for me.
I was going to say, some people wear shorts all the time, like all year round. Like there's crazy people, postmen.
I used to do that. I once swept a basketball court on Boxing Day in shorts to get rid of the snow. And then cycled down there with a stepladder on one arm and a broom under the other arm.
Are you sure you weren't doing a Dick Van Dyke impression?
If I could reference one of his quotes from one of them Mary Poppins films, I would do right now. I'm trying to remember it. But yeah, no, I'm in shorts and a rookie Michael Jordan vest right now.
Well, we've not done an NBA podcast in a couple of weeks. I think me and you did the last one.
We did the last one a month ago.
Was it? Oh my God, was it really a month ago?
Yeah, it was the 8th of July, according to my Skype history.
Wow, that's flown. We didn't intentionally have that big a gap. It just sort of fell that way.
Yeah, old man issues mean that I got hurt.
You did get hurt, didn't you? Are you okay now? I forgot to ask.
Yeah, no, I'm fine now. It turns out that
you're in game form.
diazepam is a really effective muscle relaxant. So I was very chill for a couple of days and not at all addicted to it.
No, yeah, that sounds fun. But we did actually put a podcast out, or should I say Hugh managed to put a podcast out on the 30th of July where he was in Birmingham at a summer basketball camp for the City of Birmingham Basketball Club, and he got to speak to Hakeem Olajuwon. It wasn't a long podcast, but it was a good 10 minutes of Hakeem talking about the way the game's changed and how he would adapt to playing in today's NBA, and that was a pretty cool get for us to get. And
huge get.
Hugh Hopkins out there, making waves.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was great to have a guy of that status talk to one of us. It was just awesome. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Great to have him in the country supporting grassroots basketball.
Yeah, it was really cool. And there's been quite a lot of really interesting content going up on the doubleclutch.uk website the last few weeks. We've had a couple of American writers join our team. Justin Quinn, notably, has been going completely bonkers. Like, I'm not sure I understand some of the articles that he writes sometimes, but that's probably just me.
He's on another level.
He's on.
It's really cool. It's just the way he looks at things. It's just very different to what I've seen previously. It's really cool.
We're gonna have to do one of those pyramids of double clutch writers and stick Justin at the top.
Well, I would disagree with you, but only because I'm trying to protect all our other writers from going, leave me alone. But we love all of you equally.
Yeah, the site's been it's been busy for me doing some of the artwork and stuff, but I can't complain about that. It's been. Have you
only done
nice
some of it? I thought you did all of it.
Well, humble brag.
Exactly. Humble
brag. But yeah, no, the website's been ticking over, and the Twitter and the Instagram and stuff's all been sort of rolling along as usual. But it's a little bit of a quiet point for us, and we do have lives and other things to do in the summer. So we've been trying to do some other things.
Have we? Okay.
Well, you've been dressing up JJ in every single jersey possible known to man.
That's basketball related. That's basketball
related, but he's changed teams more times than I did in the last 6 months of the season.
He's a free agent. He can do as he pleases.
What age does he get to where he can dictate his own team?
I guess it's
just a teenage argument.
8 years after he's drafted, isn't it? But he can choose his own team as once he gets to an age where he can make that decision. I guess I don't care which team he follows necessarily.
He'll just join the double clutch roster and be a fan of the league.
Well, exactly. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to bring him up with.
There you go. Free labour. But anyway, we should probably move on. We've just got a couple of things to discuss today, really. We're going to just talk briefly about the Christmas Day slate, which was leaked online, and then we've reportedly got the opening night matchup as well, so we'll discuss those briefly. Then we're going to do a bit of Vince Carter returning to the Atlanta Hawks and some of the comments he made on the NBA Global Championships recently, and basically what's been happening with the sort of exodus of USA basketball talent. And then towards the end of the show, we've got some cool 2K news and some bits and bobs to freak out about. So I think that's the plan.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan.
Sounds like a plan. Anyway, the Lakers and the Clippers are expected to play opening night in the NBA, which is reportedly due to start on Tuesday, October the 22nd. And the other game that night is reportedly going to be the last season's NBA champions, the Toronto Raptors. They will play against Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans, obviously the number one pick going up against the former NBA champions, which is a bit bittersweet because obviously Kawhi left in the summer, so it's not quite the ceremony that we thought it was going to probably be. But it's a nice game for the Raptors to have on opening night, and cool to see Zion out there on opening night as well.
Yeah, let's. He shut things down very quickly with his bruised knee, so he's got no excuse not to be ready for when the season ticks over. Comments made about him, whether or not he's in shape. He's
still growing, according to David Griffin.
Upwards
and sideways.
Guy's a unit. Honestly, we've said this before about his knees. I really hope he can evolve beyond being just a dunker. He's got so much sort of potential and sort of just star quality about him.
Yeah.
That I really hope he's an effective and impactful player for a long time. And I think the Pelicans kind of deserve a break. They didn't do the best job of surrounding Anthony Davis with talent, but they did try. And Davis himself was injured a lot. Maybe that was load management, who knows? But it just seems now that they've got a young core they can go with. Hopefully they can get through some teething issues and turn themselves into a pretty solid roster.
Yeah, and it's a pretty drastic change for the way that organisation has been handled, because certainly the last couple of seasons, or certainly on this podcast anyway, like we've really not been fans of the way that they have operated behind the scenes in New Orleans. Like, it's flaunting and wasting your talent that you had with Anthony Davis, but there's also just bad moves that the office was making, and there was never really quite enough interest there to sort of pique the sort of casual NBA fan. Like, as great as Anthony Davis was, you weren't watching it watching them for any other reason. Now everything's changed since David Griffin came into the organization. They've made smart acquisitions this summer, and they've actually managed to build what Zion and some of the others have said is potentially a contending team, or at least a playoff team out in the Western Conference. Which is a bold statement to make, but we'll have to see. And I'm sure when we end up doing all of our season previews and bits and bobs, there'll be plenty of debates amongst our team and our staff about, where the Pelicans rank in the new pecking order in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I think David Griffin has had a massive impact since being appointed GM. I don't think I would be brave enough to put them as a Western Conference playoff team yet, though. I don't think they've got that in them, but we can debate that closer to the season. I think it's going to be a good first game for Zion to be out there against the defending champions, and an opportunity to claim a scout, because in the record books, if you ever went back to check them, they wouldn't say, they'd just say former world champion or Raptors, rather than reeling from the loss of their star player who dragged them over the line, world champions.
That sounds like a good name for a book, though.
It would be. Someone's going to write that. They've got to write that. That story was just incredible. But what other games have they got opening night? Lakers Clippers, you said, didn't you?
Yeah, Lakers Clippers is the other marquee matchup. I imagine that would be the later game, just because of the way it falls in the West Coast. But yeah, it's an interesting one. We wouldn't normally get such a marquee matchup on opening night. Or at least the last few years, I can't. We had Sixers Celtics last year, I think was one of the matchups.
Didn't we have Spurs Warriors the year before, when the Warriors got beat by about 40? Because that might have been 3 years ago now.
We may well have done, but this seems to jump off the paper as being one of those sort of rare derby games, really, that you don't tend to get on opening night. But with the hype around Los Angeles at the moment, like the whole basketball world has just basically circled around that city the whole of this summer, and it will do for the rest of the season. So that's a really interesting matchup on opening night. We are hearing that Paul George probably won't be playing. So it'll be interesting to see how Kawhi does with that other unit there. But we can't play. We can't
rest in load management.
We can't put anything past him. Yeah, that would be the joke. Would be that the Clippers put out the roster without those two and still beat the Lakers.
Are you concerned at all for the Lakers? I know we spoke probably on the last pod about potential chemistry issues. Are you still concerned about that? Because they seem to have done a reasonable job of putting together some semblance of a roster.
Well, I think a lot of it is dependent on Anthony Davis this season. Like, what Anthony Davis are we going to get? Are you going to get a FU mode MVP Anthony Davis? In which case, the Lakers will be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. No matter what LeBron James does, he would only have to contribute a small part of towards that campaign. But I think they have done an okay job. I think adding DeMarcus Cousins on a nice deal. Kyle Kuzma's obviously still there. Danny Green was a good get. I like the Avery Bradley pickup. Quinn Cook, who we mentioned before, like, he's a guy who can create his own offense. Troy Daniels has been jumping around the league. I mean, he's a good 3-point shooter. There's a lot of good 3-point shooters on both these teams, actually. But yeah, I think they've done an okay job. My preference, as everyone knows, would have still been to go out and just start making your moves on opening free agency day and not wait for Kawhi, because it just seemed like a long shot at best. I think we've had so many different opinions about how Kawhi handled it and what was going on that I don't think we're really going to know ever. Like how this summer went down, what he was thinking, what other players were thinking, what organizations were thinking. Because if it came down to something as stupid as Magic Johnson said something and leaked it, and that was the reason he went to the Clippers and not Lakers, then I don't know. It just blows my mind. That
also feels like the ultimate troll as well. Like, yeah, a guy in that position, Kawhi, obviously with all the power, would sort of dangle the carrot of, if you can get Magic to shut his mouth, I'll come to you. Like, when has anyone ever been able to make Magic shut up? It's just like, that's him just trying to. That's just the ultimate troll. If that was the bargaining chip.
Yeah, there's a nice mixture of youth on this Lakers team, and then the veteran guys like Jared Dudley and obviously LeBron. And I think that LeBron, with the extra time he's had this summer, I know he's been shooting Space Jam like 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. in the evening or something stupid is what they were saying on telly the other day. But
I was going to say 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is a pretty easy shift.
That's pretty easy, yeah. I was just speaking there. But no, like, Anthony Davis is clearly loving the limelight. This is what he's wanted. I think we spoke on the last podcast about he's been hidden up's a loose term, but he's been under the radar in terms of like the global appeal of his game. And now he's playing for the Lakers, who are, one of the top 10 biggest franchises in sports. And it'd be interesting. I mean, they picked up Antetokounmpo's brother, Kostas. I'd be curious to see what happens with him. I think that might be
buying into the 2021.
I'm not buying into anything like that, but I just think it'd be curious to see how he performs in the World Cup this summer, which, well, obviously next month, the end of this month actually, because you've got you've got all the Antetokounmpo brothers teaming up to take on the world, which is a cool thing. But if he could, have a coming out party and then play really well with the Lakers, that would be an unexpected surprise. But I think the roster's there, but I think, again, it just comes down to how well does Anthony Davis play in this system, and they've got the shooters around him. Can we have a resurgent season from DeMarcus Cousins? I don't know if that's possible. I mean, he wasn't great in the NBA Finals, but then again, might have been just a case of, too much too soon for him. But
yeah,
I think they're in a good, like, they salvaged, what was looking like a pretty disastrous summer. But I still think... You
just said they signed AD. That was part of the summer moves, because we're not counting all the tampering that went on. That was a summer transaction. How can you think they've had a rough summer when they land AD?
Because they would just fill in the roster out with whatever they could find at one point. And then luckily the dice rolled their way and they ended up with some players that I don't think that people were expecting them to end up with. But if you put the two rosters on paper, the Clippers are still better by a long shot. Yeah,
understandably. I just think that they've sort of transitioned and fell into the situation where they've given Braun exactly the sort of team he needs, a mercurial big man and a bunch of shooters around him.
I don't think there's a great... The problem with the Lakers roster is I don't think there's a great defensive player on that. Well, I mean, Avery Bradley has been okay, but he had
Anthony
a
Davis.
dodgy season. Anthony Davis is the best defensive player on that roster, but that is literally it. Whereas you contrast that to like the Clippers, and they have built a team that is 5 deep, and I don't see how the Lakers can possibly comprehend that, unless LeBron decides to play defense this season. But
no, that's not going to happen.
During the regular season? Not going to happen. No. But yeah.
Maybe in the playoffs, chase down block here or there just to remind you that he can if he wants to, but probably not.
I just really like the depth that the Clippers have got, to be honest. Like, just being able to bring Montrezl Harrell off the bench, and then Lou Williams is a guy who can get you 25, 30 points on any given night. Those two had the most effective pick and roll combo in the league last year, and you saw what they did to the Warriors in the first round. Like, they nearly upset those guys. And I just think with George there and Kawhi, that gives them a sort of added bit of flexibility. And, speaking of NBA 2K, they are going to be a frightening team to play with. So
yeah, they are. That's going to be the first team you load up, isn't it? In fact, haven't you already been playing with them on 19?
I did download a roster. Yes, 2K. You don't know this, but I did download an updated roster, and it's been pretty cool playing around with some of the new lineups. So it's a bit odd because obviously KD's just there with Kyrie, and that's not really going to be a thing this year, is it? So no, but
not at all.
Yeah, no, the Clippers are genuinely scary on 2K, and I can't wait to beat some people online with them next year. So it's going to be fun.
Always is. You want to go on to Vince?
Yeah, Vince Carter. He's still around. He's the only NBA player left from the 90s.
I think he might be now, because Jason Terry's gone, isn't he?
I was going to say, he must be. But Vince Carter's returning to the Atlanta Hawks, teaming up with Trae Young yet again to cause chaos on a team that probably isn't going to be very good, but has the potential to be very good in the future. It's a no-brainer, really. I mean, I think people wanted him to go to Toronto or somewhere like that, but with the young guys that he's got to nurture on that team, it makes perfect sense to stay. Well, in my head, anyway.
I was thinking about this the other day. I can't believe the time's flown so quickly because I remember him being drafted, and that scares the crap out of me. And it's just he's a legend, absolute legend. And even though his role diminishes and continues to diminish, I still love the fact he's on the floor.
22 years.
It's mad. An NBA record, 22 years. I saw a graphic which looked at the history of the NBA and then just highlighted Robert Parrish and Vince's tenures as players, and it took it and they almost sort of collide back to back. I think there's a couple of years gap between Vince being drafted and Parrish retiring, but it takes up like half of the NBA's history, those two players, which is just an absolutely insane prospect. Last player left from the 90s. That's mad. What a mantle to have. I'm not going to be happy if he does the whole like Dwayne Wade jersey swap thing.
Yeah, but Dwayne Wade's jersey swap is now like
a retro collection.
Jersey swap.
Yeah. But if they can do if he does it the way Dirk did, just humble, see you later, it's been fun. It'd have been nice to see him go back to Toronto, I think, before they'd won a championship and not in the state they're in now.
Yeah.
But Vince back that's just great. I'm going to miss him when he's gone.
Yeah, he doesn't have a natural place on that Raptors roster now. Like, it just doesn't make any real sense for him to be there. Whereas at least in Atlanta, he can. Oh,
because of his veteran status.
Because he can nurture this young core team. You've got Trae Young, who undoubtedly is going to be a superstar in this league. Collins is there as well. Like, they made some moves in the draft to draft higher up, and I think the Hawks are going to be. They're one of those teams that they're building the right way, which is nice to say after so many years of just going on about how the Sixers just used to tank for everything. But I think Vince Carter returning to them is cool. And he's obviously a player who had a massive, the World Cup I say the World Cup, the international game had a massive impact on the course of his career. So it's funny seeing how, players have changed in the past, 19, 18 years since the 2000 Sydney Olympics? We're
in 2019, so it's 19 years.
When he had that. Okay, all right. I've had a long day at work, okay, man. I've been in and out of meetings. I don't need this.
The dunk of death over Freddie Weiss, drafted by the Knicks.
Poor Freddie Weiss. Played on repeat all over the world, I think.
Yeah. Well, we did it featured in an episode of the Triple Double. Go and check that out on YouTube.
New season
we
coming
did.
soon.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. It's my, I put it up there as my favourite dunk of all time. And it's not even an NBA game. It's just one of the most savage things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He cleared the guy. He cleared a 7-footer.
Well, on that stage as well, like that stage is amplified because that is the sporting event that, even non-sports fans end up watching, and it's just crazy. But it's a bit, and you have that, those early 2000s USA teams that were all really good but never won anything, and then you had the Redeem team in 2008, which, funnily enough, redeemed the American team on the world stage. And what are we now? 10 years later, and their dominance has kind of been unrivaled on the international stage, Team USA at least. And now, going into this August, or should I say this September's FIBA World Cup in China,
August 31st,
you've got a team that has, I wouldn't want to say it's weakened, because
but you're gonna.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to. It's the American basketball team. Like the embarrassment of riches that they can still use is still, better than
I think
a
that's
lot of
the
the
key,
teams that
really.
are in the World Cup this year, and even more so actually because FIBA changed the rules so that the sort of so-called lesser teams could get in this year. So that's why we've had a 5-year gap as well. I believe we had a 5-year gap, and they did that partially to avoid the FIFA World Cup, because obviously football is football. But they also did it to let, some of the lesser teams that aren't, the European powerhouses or Australia or America and Canada, like to enter and get into the competition. So
Are you talking about the qualification windows?
yes.
Yeah. Well, that worked, didn't it? Because Team USA dropped 2 games featuring entire G League roster.
Well, that always happens.
What they played? That's the first time since 1992 that NBA players haven't. Well, since pre-92, that NBA players haven't featured in like a USA team.
Yeah. It's the unrivaled dominance is what more I was going on about.
Yeah, I mean, they're on track. If they're still firm favourites, despite the fact that
I think people
so
are putting
many of
bets
them,
on that they could lose one game in this World Cup, which is ridiculous.
people are putting bets on that they could lose a game.
Yes.
I would take that bet because it's not happened that
I think
often.
I'd take that bet.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, what are the odds on that? You don't have them to hand.
I don't have them to hand now.
Well, that's just why would you drop that and then not have the information for me?
Well, because I just wanted to just
I didn't
drop it.
realise that they had that at all. But it's not happened very often that a team's gone 100% through the World Cup, if I recall.
It's even because it's got to be even less likely considering the mass exodus that has taken place on this team as well. I mean, we'll get onto it. I guess let's just get on with it. Just reeling
We're
off
there.
some of the
We seamlessly transitioned and then stalled on it.
just reeling off some of the superstars that have ran away from the World Cup in China this year. James Harden, Damian Lillard, Zion Williamson, Anthony Davis, CJ McCollum, Eric Gordon, Julius Randle recently, and there's tons more. There's guys like Reddick's on there, for Christ's sake. So the USA roster's changed dramatically, which is even funnier because if you go on the FIBA website and you go on the World Cup page, you go on the USA page, their Photoshop montage has got half of those players in it.
Yeah, well, because they were expected to be involved. Someone at FIBA was going to be working overtime to recut some players.
Someone needs to recut those, get those PNG cutouts ready.
But I see. I'm not overly concerned. I get why people have done it. Just go back to Vince quickly. He was speaking in his role as Fox Sports game analyst for the Junior NBA Championships recently, and someone asked him on the media call. I think it was late last week.
Yeah, I think Josh Coyne was on that.
Josh was on it for us. What did you think about so many US stars skipping the World Championships in China and just focusing on the NBA season? And he said, you have to look at the background of these players as far as injuries. Some of these guys feel like they've played a lot of games in a lot of months, have been dedicated to playing the game, and they don't really get the same amount of time off as some of the guys who maybe didn't play into the playoffs or are not getting that call to play an Olympic team or team of some sort. Some of these stars feel like their bread is buttered in the NBA and they have to make sure they're ready to play. And it's an interesting perspective. I don't know if you caught the Woj pod with CJ McCollum recently.
I did.
You did. So even CJ was saying, look, It's going to change my rest schedule, my preparation, my training schedule on the specifics of my game that I want to improve this year. Ultimately, my responsibility is to my employer, the Portland Trail Blazers, who pay my wages, and they're paying him a lot more wages now. They've agreed a $100 million extension. And that's where his responsibility lies from his perspective. He also, Woj countered it with if you were guaranteed a spot on the Olympic team next year,
would you play?
Yeah, would you play? Would you have played? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So maybe there's a carrot that USAB need to dangle if they want these guys to play. But I don't have any issue with these guys saying that their loyalty is to the people paying their contracts, essentially. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, it would be great if they had some of their talent there, but we've seen so many marquee players have big injuries recently in the NBA.
Yeah.
That I understand why people are not hesitant to, but that's the wrong word. But that said, I think we've got a great team. I say we, Team USA, have got a great team that they're putting together still, and they've got perfect guys to lead them. Yeah, we're definitely not there. Although we have got qualifiers for Eurobasket 2021 pre-qualifiers this Saturday in Manchester, the 10th. That's the Saturday, isn't it?
The under-18s were balling out the last week as well.
Yeah, they finished. I think they can finish as high as fifth. Was the last I saw. Yeah, we've had a great summer, actually. If you go back and look, the women are fantastic at Eurobasket. It's
and Kylie Samuels got picked up by the Sparks again. So
yeah, amazing what this country's doing when it has no funding. Zero funding. It is absolutely amazing. But the roster that they've got, and I say roster because it's not an actual roster. I'm intrigued as to how USA do this, really, because they have two rosters essentially that they pit against each other, even though one is the more sort of star-laden, if you will. But some of the guys featured there, this is your big names are Kemba, who is a big name.
Agreed.
Good. You then got Kyle Lowry, another big name.
Big name, but 33 in the World Cup. Yeah.
He's recovering from a thumb injury. Fair.
World champion Kyle Lowry. Sorry,
world
Kyle.
champion. Yeah, and he's a recent All-Star, Chris Middleton. Yeah. Probably not a big, not known globally. Then you've got rising stars like Donovan Mitchell.
Not a household name.
Not a household name yet, or maybe ever. There is a decent team there. Miles Turner's in on the squad. That's great. Kuzma's in. Jaylen Brown. Love the fact that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are in there. But then they've also picked up these key role players that I like as well, which we tend to not see these, like the star-studded Olympic teams, which are top to bottom all-stars, are great. But I think there's like a role that these players like Marcus Smart and PJ Tucker can really play on these teams. And this could be it doesn't need to be star-laden necessarily. This is a team of players who are solid, scrappy, want to, that sort of gritty, hustly player, and they're guys who can just sort of show a different side of the game, I think, and Pop's the guy, exactly the guy to get the most or more than you would expect out of a role player. Some of the performance he's got from teams, the contracts he's earned for guys that have played for the Spurs previously and then have gone on elsewhere. He's just ideal for just maximising the output of these guys. I think that I completely understand why they are still the favourite with that roster. And we talk about it, the game being global and everything like that. Well, record numbers of Europeans represented, all this sort of stuff. Well, starting day rosters last year, 76% of the NBA was still American. So that should give you some indication of the sort of depth of quality and talent that America really has. The marquee league in the world is still overwhelmingly dominated by Americans. So as global as we like to say it is, they're still the power.
They are the power, and they are ingrained in basketball from a young age, which is why if you go and look at the roster that is there and, is fighting for spots at the moment, Jaylen Brown, Mason Plumlee, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Tucker, Turner, and Kemba Walker, they've all won at either under 18s or under 20s or some form of youth level world championships or even just the Americas championships. They've either won golds or silvers. So they have experience of playing, basketball on the international stage. And then you just add that to the fact that a lot of these guys played some significant minutes in the NBA during the regular season and in the playoffs last year. And that counteracts what most of the sort of, other international players are doing. I guess the one weak area for me in terms of this USA build-up at the moment is just that front court depth. I don't think it's as strong as it was going to be. Obviously, Anthony Davis, Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, no Julius Randle, who pulled out really recently, and he quoted a family issue. So obviously everyone's got their own things to deal with. And, CJ's right in what he said on the podcast with Woj is that, they don't get a lot of time off, some of these guys now, and they're constantly in the spotlight. So just having a little bit of extra time, especially some of these guys who've got young families, which I know Julius Randle has, and he's moved cities this summer, so I imagine his life's been a bit hectic. Just to get the extra time off and to do some of the things that the family need to do is probably a nice change for them. But they take Miles Turner, who was, a block machine for them last year. I really like Bam Adebayo from Miami. I think he'll get a lot more playing time with the Heat this season, especially since Whiteside's now gone and made that spot a bit more vacant. Brook Lopez is an interesting fit. He's sort of a specific guy who does one thing really well.
Shoot the three.
Shoot the three, exactly. So they've
just been doing it about 3 years.
Stick in there and run everybody around him. But I think the talent is everywhere to be seen, especially in that between those guards. Donovan Mitchell, you don't get much better than Donovan Mitchell and Kemba Walker. Those two guys are electric. And I think Donovan Mitchell, especially, and Kemba Walker, they will seize the moment on this stage. And it's weird that there's so many Boston Celtics players on this roster, because it gives them another chance to sort of,
develop some chemistry, get to know
chemistry together, yeah,
and hit the ground running, yeah, absolutely.
To prove that Kyrie was the problem.
Yeah.
The Judas is the word I was looking for.
You mentioned earlier about bets to lose a game. I don't have the odds, but what I have for you is there have been 8 instances of teams winning 100% of their games in a World Cup tournament. Argentina did it in 1950, Brazil did it in 63, Yugoslavia in 78, and Spain in 2006. The USA did it in 54, 94, 2010, and 2014. So they're undefeated across the last 2 World Cups, which is pretty impressive, and
speaks volumes as to the talent they've got
over previously. Yeah, it's
well, that's the thing as well. It's these players, like CJ was saying, trying to get a spot. Like, you can't, if you're outside of the top 12 are they allowed to take?
Yeah.
If you're outside of that top 12 elite players in your particular position, your chances of getting in are incredibly slim. And with the Olympics coming up next year, you might be thinking, and the NBA being as competitive as it is at the moment, there's so many teams that could have a chance of winning it all this year if they just get it right and get the chemistry right and get the conditioning right this summer. And you can win an NBA championship by doing the work the summer before. That tends to be, one of the key foundations of a championship team. So I think he's right, and I think some of these other guys who are certainly on the sort of peripherals, like is Montrezl Harrell and Julius Randle, are they going to get anywhere near the team if Anthony Davis and Kevin Love and some of those other guys are playing? Probably not.
Yeah, agreed. And that sort of tells you the sway that some of these players have, that they can just sort of command that spot.
Yeah,
they can sort of say to the USAB, I'm not playing this time, but then Steph Curry turns around next year and says, "Yeah, I'll play for you." Who's going to turn down Steph Curry?
Oh, you said Steph.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't enunciate. But I think it's an interesting opportunity for the rest of the world, though, because they must see a. You refuse to use the word weakened, but I think there is an element of it. They are weakened in terms of their shine. Some of the shine is gone. Like I say, I still think they can put together.
There's a dent in the armor.
Yeah, exactly. And they must be licking their lips, because this is a season where we've had a Cameroonian win Most Improved Player, a Frenchman win Defensive Player, a Slovenian win Rookie of the Year, and a Greek win MVP. So this is a chance for a clean sweep of and a Canadian team win the NBA title. So it's a chance of a clean sweep of every non-American, major title going to a non-American country or player.
Yeah, as good as Corey Joseph and Jamal Murray are, I don't think Team Canada is winning the FIBA World Cup.
Well, Spain are good, Serbia are good, Slovenia are good.
Spain are in an interesting transition period, though, because, there's going to be no Pau and probably no Serge. Like, imagine Marc Gasol I think he said he's already going to play, so it'll be an interesting transition for them, but it's a chance for some of the sort of lesser or quieter teams to make a shout. Australia with no Ben Simmons, they could be interesting. I think they've got a couple of friendly games with Team USA as well.
They have
coming up, so which have caused an absolute furore down under. I don't know if you follow any of the Australian basketball sites, but because of all these players pulling out and Ben Simmons not going, people are pissed off that they've spent all this money on tickets, which is, understandable.
Well, it is to a degree, and I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm a little bit annoyed with the Australians because there was, what was it the other day?
And it's not cricket related, before anyone asks.
Why? Oh, yeah, there's some cricket going on at the minute, isn't there?
Some cricket.
Well, they just had a World Cup. What more do they want? Like, really? Come on now. I didn't watch any of it. I'm sorry if you like cricket.
I don't claim to like cricket, but I may keep an eye on it if it is on.
I didn't at all. Someone tried to talk to me about the final and I just sort of glazed over.
I didn't watch the World Cup. I didn't watch that.
I have a cup that says, or a mug, whatever you want to call it, that says, if you want me to listen, talk to me about basketball. That should just say it. Shout out to my other half for buying me that and understanding me so well.
True love.
So Sam Amick from The Athletic was over here and he put a tweet out about how, he'd been in the UK and it was sort of midday and it turns out we don't really
like basketball.
Yeah, care about it. And it was an interesting observation to make in middle of July in what I assume was somewhere other than London.
No, Americans don't go anywhere other than London.
Wow, you'd be surprised. I've got I know an American who's coming over and is doing a little tour of the whole country and even venturing into Scotland.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway, but some of the replies, one of them was an Aussie saying, well, yeah, and this is just another example of why they shouldn't get an NBA game every year. And I was like, well, firstly, that hurts because we don't have an NBA game this year. That still stings me. So back off. And secondly, it's so much easier to get to the UK from the East Coast than it is to get anywhere to that slab of desert stuck underneath the No offense to the Australians listening, because I've been to Australia, enjoyed it very much, but it was great landing in a middle of the night in a 40-degree heat wave. That was fun. In January, that was a good time. But
they're just built differently, Australians.
Yeah, they are. Any place where the spiders and snakes basically have more power than you. It's probably not the best place, but I do get their grief to a degree because they are a much bigger basketball nation than we are. We've just been very fortunate that we've been on the doorstep of Europe and that we've had the infrastructure in place to support the NBA bringing its entire operation over. That's on my rant on Australians.
Rant on Australia. Okay, another 2-minute quick ramble on Australia. Considering Ben Simmons isn't playing, who's the best player on that roster now?
Jingles. Good. I'm glad we agree on something. Okay, cool. I'm glad we agree on something as well.
I think it speaks volumes that even without Ben Simmons, who's just signed a monster deal and is on track to be one of the best NBA players in the league, they still have some strength and depth there that enables them to put out a roster that can and will compete. They're always going to fight. Patty Mills is there, Bogut's there, Aaron Baines. There's still names on that roster. Dellavedova, yeah, and he's Australia through and through. Nothing to do with him fighting people in NBA finals or anything. But it speaks volumes as to the system that they've built, and we've spoken before, the sort of academy system that they have in Australia to sort of mentor young basketball talent is exactly what the UK needs. But unfortunately, we don't have that. So
No. And they also have, the way that the NBL works out there is fantastic in the way they support people looking for an alternative to the college system in the US.
Yeah.
They've got some great schemes to, for excellent, top players who don't want, perhaps financially can't continue to be an amateur, or educationally aren't at that level where they could get a college scholarship, and they give them an opportunity to go to a decent league, get exposure, earn money, and then make the jump to the NBA. And I think that's the way that other leagues around the world should be thinking, and probably will be following suit very soon.
Yeah, I mean, just the World Cup in general, I think there's some really good teams there, and I think it speaks volumes as to just how the game has grown now. Like, Italy is a team that you cannot underestimate. Serbia, you can't underestimate. France are putting out a good team. Australia, who we've just mentioned. Greece, just purely because they've got the NBA MVP and his brothers all on one team. Like, that's just going to be completely mental to watch.
Assuming they all make the final squad, the youngest brother is an outside shot, is my understanding. And there's another brother on the way as well.
Yeah,
there is a fourth, which according to Giannis, the fourth one is going to be the best.
Is he the best one?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. Well, current world ranking presented by Nike has America number one, obviously, but Spain, France, Serbia, Argentina, Lithuania are sort of the top six. So I think it does showcase the global game as it is at the moment. Which
and
is
Louis Scola's still playing. Isn't that mad?
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
That I didn't know that.
And he looks younger
incredible
now because he's cut his hair.
Well, I guess that's the other counter argument to the Americans, actually, is the fact that they are sending a relatively young roster. But I guess you could knock that out by saying that, in like 2014, when they sent Derrick Rose and DeRozan and those guys, they weren't that old either. So
yeah, well, yeah, I think that's a fair point. Are we done with Australia now?
Are we done with Australia? Yeah, let's flip the world back upside down. Or the right way up, whatever your point of view is. We're just going to take shut up. We're just going to take a quick break to talk about our friends at NBAstore.eu. So we're just going to tell you a little bit about NBAstore.eu, Europe's official online NBA store. We've teamed up with them to give you 15% off orders with the code DCPOD15.
New season, new team. Update your wardrobe this off-season. Just remember DCPOD15 at checkout. Offer excludes clearance and outlet items, but for whatever you need, head to NBAstore.eu now and use the code DCPOD15.
And now, onto the NBA 2K bit. NBA 2K. It's that time of year again. I can't believe it's this time of year again. Like, seriously.
So quick.
It blows my mind. It seems like yesterday that you and Joe were over in Athens for the cover launch with Antetokounmpo and crew.
That was an amazing couple of days.
And then you were over in Brooklyn. God, look at you going everywhere.
Globetrotter.
Jet setting Mike Miller. That's what we're going to call you.
What can I say? I had a functional passport and you didn't.
Well, that's true. And as our events manager, it was only right that you did this.
Oh, is that my title now? Hence why we've not had many events.
Hey, we had an event for the playoffs.
Yeah. Brooklyn was amazing last year. And obviously we're getting close to the launch of 2K20, 6th of September, if I recall.
Yeah, it always weirds me out that it's September now, because I'm sure it used to be a bit later than that.
Catching everyone as they're about to start spending before it gets all time to save for Christmas.
Well, yes, there is that, but there's also the smart thing that the EA don't do with FIFA actually, and EA releases FIFA just after the Premier League season started, which for most people is when football starts.
They should do it just before.
The NBA go, we'll put it out a month before, so you can do everything before then, which is a great idea.
Yeah, exactly. Builds the hype to the season. You get to go and test your new teams before they actually get to go out there and over or underperform your expectations, I guess.
Yeah, and we did actually have the NBA 2K20 trailer dropped last week, I think it was, or the week before. Like a 1 minute 20-second sizzle reel, which was really cool. It got Raptors fans in a bit of a state though, because it had Kawhi Leonard dunking on I think it was Serge or Pascal, which was really...
What's the 2K version of a subtweet?
Really awkward, and I know Ronnie 2K got a lot of stick for it, so I wasn't involved in the abuse that was hurled, but I did see quite a lot of it on Twitter, so...
I don't think Ronnie cares. he's from the Bay Area, he's a Warriors fan through and through, he probably was part of it. It was
Ronnie's got enough power now, he doesn't care.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think he is a Warriors fan. I'm trying to remember now. I spoke to him last summer. Oh yeah, humble brag. So we spoke to him in Athens, and I've got a feeling he said the Magic were his favourite team growing up because he loved the pinstripe.
Oh well, there you go then. Shaq and Penny.
Yeah. Oh man, now I'm just reminiscing about that franchise and what they never were.
Well, they never were.
Made me sad.
Never will be. Sorry, Orlando Magic fans UK. Whoops.
Yes, 2K20 coming out soon, and we may or may not be going to LA to be involved in it somehow.
That was subtle.
Pardon? That was subtle.
That was subtle.
Yeah. I didn't know how else to phrase it. But yeah, we will be involved in it. We will keep you up to date with what's going on. Make sure you're following 2K UK on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as Double Clutch UK, obviously. Just keeping the loop with everything that's going on. There's going to be loads more bits of information coming out. But there was a blog that came out from one of the programmers, which sort of picked up a lot of the improvements that have been made from 2K19, and we just figured we'd go through like some of them quickly.
There's a lot because it's come from Mike Wang, who is the guy who does 2K TV and pops up and shows you some tips and hints that you may not know about. But they like adding a lot of stuff that certainly some of us, I think me and you can define ourselves as casual 2K players.
Yeah, like when you compare us to the likes of DBG and JD, and if you don't know who they are, go and check them out on YouTube. Great guys and just 2Kers.
They just know everything. They know all the moves, all the dribble moves, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They're not just randomly clicking like truck sticks. No, not really.
I don't randomly click. Thank you very much.
I've seen you play. I'm pretty sure I beat you with.
You did. Yeah.
Which I'm just claiming as that will never go away now.
But I my excuse was that. Oh wait, no, I can't use that excuse because we did play on Xbox. Anyway,
I'm not even an Xbox player. Double win for me.
Double win.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, some of the things they've done, they've had a motion engine upgrade, which makes movement more realistic, and it's the level of sort of detail it goes into is better foot planting and momentum modeling and motion style variation. It's just it's insane the effort that goes into a computer game, and I love that there is that sort of pedancy that they want to get it as real as possible. It's just, I just love it. I think it's amazing.
They have 2K, especially at the moment, have a nice juxtaposition because they have obviously the NBA2K franchise, which is the ultra realistic basketball game, but they have playgrounds as well where they can do completely the opposite. And I NBA Playgrounds is freaking awesome. It's just like NBA Jam, but modern and new. But the thing I'm looking forward to with 2K20 is just that with this new animation system, there's no like predetermined dribble moves anymore. So previously, when you went into a dribble, it was then set as an animation, so it had to carry through. Whereas now, because of the way they've reworked the engine, you can change that mid dribble, which is going to just open up a whole world of possibilities. I imagine it's going to make dunking and sort of finding, cutting, slashing is going to be a lot more effective than it certainly was in any of the previous 2Ks. And in doing so, you contrast it with like the new sort of, it's not really ball physics, but it's the handling mechanics of players now. So, if you've got Anthony Davis, who's got incredible guard-like handles, he's going to be able to do all of these dribble moves and pull them off, whereas you give it to somebody else who's not quite as good at that, shall we say, like who can we think of? Andre Drummond. If he's trying to do all of these dribble moves and you're just spinning the stick all over the place, he's probably going to lose the ball, which then adds a whole different level of sort of drama to the game, especially if you're playing online with your mates, which is like, that's that's kind of where a lot of 2K players play their game now, is the online game. I know offline's massive, and I invest quite a bit of time in like my league and my GM because I just like taking a team through a season. But the way they've changed it this year is certainly going to have a big impact on sort of the multiplayer gaming as well, because it's going to be a risk-reward sort of scenario, I think.
But by the way, if you are trying to dribble with Andre Drummond,
you're an idiot.
Then you kind of deserve to get the ball stripped. I'm kind of worried because I'm hoping to have a rematch against Josh Dixon, JD, in LA after he destroyed me last year, and I've just got a feeling he's going to destroy me even more with all these new improvements they've made,
crossovers and dribble pull-ups and everything.
I'm just genuinely worried that I'm just going to get lose by 100 points or something.
What you should be saying right now is I've spent the last 6 weeks practicing.
But I have not got 2K20, have I?
Well, no. But
so how can I practice it?
You have to practice on 19 and then...
But no, it doesn't work like that. Anyway, if I spent the last 6 weeks practicing, he spent the last 52 churning out YouTube videos.
He has,
I think the body of work, if you buy into the principle of 10,000 hours for perfection and everything like that, he's significantly further down the road to perfecting the game than I am. But yeah, I love the way they think, because one of the things that has frustrated me in previous games as well is the lack of AI on sort of help players and things like that. But they've improved the AI this year. They've brought in a read and react defense, which looks at defensive footwork as well. It just seems like they're doing a lot more,
off the ball stuff.
Yeah, but also just improving the physiological aspects of players. I can't wait to have a go on it.
Yeah, and I think off the ball has certainly been a problem as well, because if you play 2K and you do anything like I do and you just run freelance sets all the time and you don't run set plays, you can get quite annoyed at the AI, and sometimes like you'll get stuck in an emotion, or previously you'll get stuck in an animation and nobody will make any moves off the ball, nobody will make any cuts anywhere. Hopefully with the way that they've changed that this year, then that sort of erases that problem. But I was also reading that they've changed the way shooting is this year. So previously on 2K, you've either had the choice of using real player field goal percentage, which was based on a combination of like their stats in that area. So if they're a great 3-point shooter and they're good at 3-point shooting in real life, then they'll be pretty good on the game. That's kind of how that was working. The user always had the ability to turn that off and just use the shot stick timing, which I know is what most people seem to like using. I never used to like using it, I have to admit. I preferred just the realism of having players making shots that they were making on TV. But now I've got used to using the shot stick, and now they've reworked the AI, so the AI is no longer using that real percentage, and they're now using a similar type sort of timing scenario. So I'd be curious to see how that works, whether you'll start having players who shouldn't be making shots. But I think it's nice for them to mix it up, because that's certainly been an area that hasn't changed in a while. And also the animation system changing means that you've got a bit more flexibility when you're sort of driving to the rim. Like you can start making your move and then change the move, because you can read what the defense is doing and react to it. And because you're no longer locked into that animation, you can do a bit more with what you're going to do. And if the guy's going to block you on the right, then you can sort of swing it around and lay it up on the opposite side, which is cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, one of the things I asked Ronnie 2K last year was about how you keep things fresh with essentially a cyclical annual game about the same
it's difficult
thing. But every year they seem to do something different that takes it one step further to becoming almost like the real thing. I can't wait for it. Obviously, we're going to bring you updates as and when we have them. But keep your ears tuned. Make sure you're following those channels, 2K UK and at Double Clutch UK, for some interesting stuff coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, 2K is something that's evolved with the league as well. Like the way the league has changed recently, to the point where like now in 2K20 they're bringing in manual switching, which is something that they haven't had before. It's always been down to the AI to just do that, but now you can control who's switching onto who, and I think it's just with a flick of a switch, the stick, which is really cool. Whether or not everyone will be using all this stuff and taking all of these changes is another question, but I'm sure if you're like a real sim head and you spend a lot of your time and you just play 2K, like you're going to really appreciate some of the sort of finer detail points in this. But that's when it contrasts so well to games like NBA Live. Like I know EA were out of the basketball world for a couple of years because 2K was just so damn good. But EA came back, made a good game, and I think they're both back in the game together. They are constantly pushing each other, and that's why we've seen so many changes from Mike Wang and some of the other guys at 2K to make 2K20 more better on the court. Like once they can perfect that, they can just change everything else. Because I still think in terms of presentation and the way the game appears, like there is no better sports game. FIFA doesn't come close, Madden doesn't come close, NHL's not too far off, but the whole presentation, like the 2K halftime show, the playoff introductions that you get, it is the NBA. It's the league that we love, and the minor things are in there. Even having someone like Bill Simmons, who's one of our favorite podcasters, doing in-game commentary, or having Kobe turn up last year, like that was cool. So we'll see. They'll probably do some more of that stuff this year, but like 2K's already set the bar so high that if it just keeps adding to gameplay, which is what it's doing with these sort of there's 80 new badges I think this year, which is ridiculous. Plus all the animation changes. I am looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting. So we'll have to see what it's like when everyone gets a chance to play it in LA in a week and a bit's time.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's just it's a fun time of year. It's almost like they've gone, you know what, basketball fans basketball junkies might be starting to itch about now. Let's give them what they're looking for.
You see, I want to say it's a fun time of year, but as a self-confessed video gamer who for years did lots of video game podcasts, it's not a good time of year because my wallet just gets killed.
Spend the rest of the year budgeting for it.
Or I could just play 2K. Maybe I need to come up with some sort of a licensing agreement with 2K Sports that's the only game I play for the next year.
Do it.
How much can I get if I just play 2K for the next 12 months?
Well, you can make a fair bit. There are some YouTube channels out there that are making a healthy living based on playing 2K, so it's definitely doable. This
is unrelated, but did you see that 16-year-old, or I think it was 16-year-old, who won 2 billion, 3 billion, or whatever it was for Fortnite the other week?
No.
He won the Fortnite World Championships, and it's just, $3 million or whatever it was for someone that age is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I sort of know what Fortnite is.
Well, I don't really, which is why I was probably muffling all of the figures there, but yeah, the fact that video gaming is now officially classed as like a proper sport just still blows my mind.
Yeah, esport. Stop calling it video gaming. Jeez, you're so old.
I'm so old. I'm not that old. I remember the Dreamcast. Okay. Just quickly, have you got any comments on the top 10 players ratings in 2K? Because they've come out. LeBron's obviously number 1, 97.
That surprised me.
Oh, okay. Kawhi is number 2, 97.
So aren't they just the same?
Yeah. They're not tied 1. You need to speak to Ronnie about this, man. Why aren't they tied first? Giannis is 3rd at 96.
I think that's fair.
KD's 96. James Harden's 96. There's a lot of 96s going on.
The KD thing, I kind of feel he should be higher, and that 96 is a reflection of his injury. Which seems unfair because he's either playable, and if he's playable, he should be playable as healthy.
He's a 98.
Yeah, exactly. KD's just lethal.
Steph Curry is number 6, 95. Anthony Davis, number 7, 94. Paul George, 93. Damian Lillard, 92. Whoop, whoop. And Joel Embiid, 91.
If he's there this year and blanks me, I'm going to cry.
I'm amazed Joel Embiid's that high up. Like, I get it, but
really,
it's well, I just think of the depth of talent in the NBA at the moment, and
he's
Nikola Jokic.
Yeah. So, like there's so many people who should be in and about the
there's
top.
1 point in the ratings between Jokic and Embiid, so I'm kind of clutching at straws here. But
yeah, exactly. Oh man, I they're usually pretty good with their ratings, and they're all fluid anyway. So they're
Yeah, and the players don't really care because if you watch Kemba Walker when he was asked about it, they just log in and edit it and put it up to 99 when they get the game. So.
But exactly. They do care. So, like, I've seen people call out Ronnie 2K on Twitter for ratings. So
of course they care. You care as well. I think all the sports guys do, don't they? They all. I do like that about what they're doing with sports ratings on games. This shit now is like involving players and like telling them, live, doing live shows. 2K did one recently where they had Anthony Davis and a bunch of other guys on there, and that was cool. And everyone's been doing it FIFA and Madden and all the other sports games. So that's a cool trend just to see, especially when someone's really lowly rated, like a poor kicker in the NFL is rated like 56 or something. And you have to somehow talk up the fact that you're rated 56 on Madden. It's like, oh.
Cheers. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Well, I don't think there's anything else to talk about, is there?
No, I'm surprised we lasted this long, given that there's not been any basketball for 2 months.
We have rambled a lot tonight, so we do apologise. But we kind of got stuck on FIBA, which I wasn't expecting to happen. Please do check out the website, as always, doubleclutch.uk. If you've enjoyed the podcast and you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please do leave us a review on there. It really helps us get up the rankings. We're now available on Google Podcasts, I think. Google Podcasts and Google, there's something else, Google Play or something that we're on as well now. So please go and check those out. And I think that's it. Mike, is there anything you want to scream and shout about?
No.
No,
I'm past screaming and shouting right now.
It's too late for you. It's past 10 o'clock.
It is too late for me. It is past 10 o'clock.
Right.
My decaf tea has kept me going so far.
Yeah, man. It's been a long day. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed the show, folks. We'll catch you at some point in the future. Good night.